Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Merry Christmas to you all, and happy birthday to our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. I hope you guys are doing well out there this afternoon, this evening, whenever it may be that you're tuning in. I certainly hope you folks have been having yourselves a very Merry Christmas. Whether you kind of like me and my family, just kind of use the day just to relax, hang out with one another. Yesterday was our very active day where we were heading across town to hang out with the family and friends, the grandparents, all those good things you typically do around the holidays, or you're using today, the Christmas day, to do it. Hope you guys are just having a fantastic day doing it and enjoying each other's company. And certainly, if you don't have anybody to hang out with or you're just feeling lonely, I know that Christmas time can be very lonely for a lot of people who've lost loved ones or just don't have a lot of people. We're here for you. Let me know in the comments, and we're here to talk to you, to help you out here. This channel is about weather, but we look out for one another. We pray for one another too. So definitely let us know if we can pray for you, if we can just talk to you. Reach out to me on Facebook, Twitter. I'm here for you, and I guarantee you there's a lot of people on this channel that are here for you also. But here to give you guys a big update on the weather. And I definitely appreciate y'all folks taking time out your Christmas day just to talk some weather with me. I think you'll be happy that you did. I think for a lot of winter weather fans, you'll like this video. This is going to be broken up into multiple segments, so definitely take advantage of those timestamps, guys, if you don't want to hear about certain things. We're going to work to what's closest to us, to what's furthest away from us. So we'll speak on what's going on right now first, not spend a whole lot of time on that. We're going to talk about the snow risk for the Mid-South. Tennessee, surrounding states could get some snow by the end of the work week. So we need to speak on that. And then we're going to talk about the energy flying around after that storm system, as there could be 1 to 2 other storm signals after this upper level low swings across the eastern U.S. as we get deeper into this work week. And then we're going to just continue to talk about that pattern change. But at the very end of the video, we're going to speak on something that could happen as we get into the first week of January, here in the next several days. But the impacts might not be felt until about late January. But there's a lot of chatter about this in the weather community. I don't speak much on this typically in my weather videos, but we're going to speak on it for the first time ever on my video. And I think for all the winter weather fans, I think you'll really enjoy hearing about this, because this could have big impacts as we get deeper into January. So we'll speak on that. If you folks have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like, and if you guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below so I can do it and so others can pray over it also. So let's get rocking and rolling here. So what's going on out there right now? Well, it's a rainy and brown Christmas for areas that should see snow on the ground, should have snow on the ground, or have snow flying around, like up in Minnesota, Wisconsin, heck, maybe even Chicago. I know Chicago's a little bit further south, but, you guys, can see white Christmases pretty often. But, certainly once you get north of Chicago, up here in the UP of Michigan, Wisconsin, you're starting to get into northern sections of Minnesota. Like northeast Minnesota, it's just raining. Minneapolis, just raining. Chicago to Milwaukee, rain. Rain starting to move into Green Bay. And you will start to see some rain even into the UP of Michigan later tonight. But there's a blizzard ongoing in areas of South Dakota, Nebraska. There's even blizzard warnings up for northeast Colorado and a couple areas here in Kansas. It's just all rain for the southeast, and it's a pretty warm rain too, relatively speaking. Temperatures in the upper 50s, low 60s, maybe mid 60s. It's raining at my house here in South Carolina. It's just been kind of a wet, kind of cloudy Christmas day. It really has, and a lot of heavy rain moving into the Ohio Valley. So the weather today is very active. I saw a big time car pile up. I believe it was in Nebraska a few hours ago off social media. So I hope folks really aren't traveling into this. I hope this didn't catch you by surprise. I imagine it didn't, but I know some people just have to travel. They have to. But please take it slow out here, because there's an all-out Christmas blizzard ongoing across this area of the country right now. So there is a lot of moisture surging into the Pacific Northwest, but this isn't totally unusual. This seems like it happens every few days for you folks, but more rain moving into the Pacific Northwest. But this same energy is going to swing down into the southeast, and we're going to speak on that in due time. So just hang with me unless you want to skip right ahead. But watches, warnings, advisories, blizzard warnings in the reds, winter storm warnings in the pinks, ice storm warnings in this purple color right here, winter weather advisories in this purple right into here. We still have winter storm watches up that might get upgraded to a blizzard warning or a winter storm warning, but this is ongoing right now. Blizzard warnings all the way down into like 8 counties in northwest Kansas. Remember when I was kind of talking to you about this, I believe in yesterday morning's video about how this was kind of shifting a little bit further west? Well, here we go, a blizzard warning. And just remember, a criteria of a blizzard is not 1 to 2 feet of snow, guys. It's about the wind speeds and how sustained they are for a period of time. So you can have a forecast of 2 to 4 inches of snow and be under a blizzard warning. And that's kind of the case here in northeast Colorado and in areas of Kansas. So pretty wild to see. Ice storm warning is very wild to see too up here in North Dakota. But it's definitely active out there on this Christmas evening, that's for sure. And kind of just to look at the rest of the night into tomorrow, this is the latest long-range HRRR model. Snow will continue to try to fill in all the way into eastern sections of Wyoming. And look at the snow falling in northeast sections of Colorado. These are the same areas that got snow a day and a half, 2 days ago. And we're going to see more snow later on tonight. So this is getting into, about 1 to 2 a.m. This is in Eastern time, so back this up an hour or two, depending on your time zone out here in the Central and Rockies out here. But snow flying around in the western sections of Nebraska. Heavy snow getting surged in here into western sections of South Dakota. But as this low kind of pivots west, it throws a lot of warm air at the surface and aloft. So some of the snow switches to sleet, even some freezing rain. This is freezing rain with an all-out ice storm ongoing overnight in areas of North Dakota and South Dakota where this pink is. So you keep this going and ice will continue to pile up another 1/4 inch to 3/10 of an inch of ice. And then as we're getting into tomorrow morning, we got snow pivoting all the way back into Denver again. All right, snow kind of scattered and smothered, Waffle House reference, there you go. Out here in Kansas and Nebraska, a little bit of a wintry mix in the central portion of the state. And just this kind of continues. And we start to get into, we're going to have to update this. Let's see. Okay, we got it now. And we continue to make our way into tomorrow afternoon. And I mean, there's still areas of heavy snow. And it's weird. You're thinking, why is it snowing in South Dakota? And it's freezing rain in North Dakota? That's because there's a low pressure here. And kind of on the northwest fringe of this low pressure, you got a lot of warm air aloft. So there's a warm nose. Temperatures might be around the same up here than down here, but the warm nose aloft is creating warm air aloft. Like it could be just a few thousand feet up in the atmosphere, and this is melting the snowflakes. And even though at the surface is below freezing, it's just falling in the form of rain, but it's freezing rain because at the surface is below 32 degrees, and that warm air in the upper levels of the atmosphere is kind of melting those snowflakes, and they don't have time to really refreeze in the sleet or either snow again before hitting the ground. But some crazy banding could set up tomorrow afternoon. We'll see what happens. And another kind of last burst of really heavy snow in Nebraska, especially South Dakota, as possible, with just on and off snow showers, maybe as far south as Kansas for sure, and down here in Kansas. And tomorrow evening, it's still snowing in these areas. I mean, this is getting into like tomorrow night, late tomorrow night, like the middle of the night. It's still snowing in these areas, and we're waking up the morning of the 27th, you still got snow showers flying around these areas. So it's just kind of a meandering low. It's very strong right now. It's actually deepening, but it eventually will weaken. And you combine all the snow that will continue to fall. And I mean, check it out. Look at these winds, guys. These winds, as we're getting into the overnight hours, just take it all the way to Tuesday morning. Blizzard conditions will be ongoing in northeast Colorado. Western Nebraska, where snow will continue to be falling. Now, the snow will probably lessen in intensity for the most part out here, but I mean, you got 40, 50, 60 mile per hour wind gusts ongoing in northeast Colorado, southeast Wyoming, all of western Nebraska, western South Dakota, all out blizzard conditions. Even if it's not snowing, you'll have a ground blizzard where the snow's just blowing around. You can't see nothing. And it looks like it's pouring snow, but it's really just a ground blizzard. And this continues. These really windy conditions will be ongoing down here in kind of the far northwest 8 counties of Kansas too, where there'll be blizzard conditions, kind of a ground blizzard, but there'll be snow flying around too and accumulating. So, definitely, it's still cranking up out there. It's not slowing down. And if we look at additional snowfall totals kind of between now and the duration of the rest of this event, and there they are, heavy snow will continue to add up. And, it's not a lot of snow down here in kind of northeast Colorado. I mean, but, anywhere from 4 to as much as 8 inches of snow still in these areas that is still going to pile up in these areas. So, as far as snowfall accumulation, it's not a massive snowstorm in these regions, but still, with the blowing winds, blizzard conditions, no doubt, and you will continue to get another foot of snow in certain areas in Dakotas, South Dakota, and Nebraska. And if you look at the ice totals also in these regions, look at this. Now, some of this is already accumulating, but somebody could get, over a half inch of ice, guys. When you start to get to a half inch of ice, of freezing rain, that's when you start to get damaging ice. I'm talking about trees falling on houses, cars. I'm going to be interested to see what it looks like tomorrow morning, getting into tomorrow afternoon up here in North Dakota and this region of South Dakota, even in Minnesota. So this is going to continue. We'll kind of give you some last little bit of information on this as we're waking up tomorrow morning. But kind of what's left over of this energy, this will turn into an upper level low. Now, hang with me here. I know you're thinking, Mitch, I don't know what I'm even looking at. Think of this kind of the orange and reds here. That's energy in the atmosphere. We call this a vortice or vort max. This will swing down, and basically what this is this is an upper level low, and this is digging down here, and it's maxing out where you see these reds and even this kind of shade of purple right here. And typically where you see the reds and even the purples right in here and the oranges, that's when you can have precipitation come up to the surface. So just because you see this big blob of red, that doesn't mean you got a massive storm system of just precipitation. It just means that that's probably the area where you're going to see the best chance of precipitation actually falling. So this upper level low digs down here. The more this digs, the more you're going to have cold air that gets brought with this upper level low, and the more you have a chance for snow for areas pretty far south. So, you're taking it out at this point. This is, getting to Thursday afternoon. This is getting into Thursday night and a Friday morning. This Fort Max is centered right over Tennessee, over areas of northern Alabama, northern Georgia. And this swings over this region and even gets into the Carolinas. But this is a good example of that. You see these reds right over the Carolinas? I mean, you would think, okay, well, this is going to be a big storm system for the Carolinas. That's not what that means necessarily. This kind of misses any kind of big-time phasing. It does phase a little bit with some northern stream energy, but it's not a huge system. So what does this look like at the surface? You say, Mitch, you're boring me with all that stuff. I know not everybody's thinking that, but what does this look like at the surface? We take a look at the latest 12Z GFS. Another one will drop here in about an hour. But the latest one, here it comes. Here comes the snow making its way through Missouri. And if you're confused about the time frames at all, because I talk a million miles per hour, this is, for example, let's take it all the way. This is Wednesday morning, 12Z Wednesday. And here's the time frame. This is an Eastern time. So if you're in Missouri, this is Central time. So this is 6 a.m. But I can't change it to Central time. But there's some light snow flying around in Missouri. I absolutely think this is going to happen. So, if you haven't seen snow in Missouri, maybe even the Ozarks, northern Arkansas, I certainly think there will be some snow flying around these areas. Could even get some moderate snow. Look at the snow trying to make its way into western Illinois. This upper level low begins to dig. Look, it shows a period of snow overnight Wednesday into Thursday morning, even in St. Louis. And this continues down, gets into the Boot Hill, Missouri, right where, southern Illinois, western Kentucky, and Missouri and Tennessee all meet right in here. There's some snow flying around, potentially. Now, there's not a lot of cold air with this. It's an upper level low. It kind of brings its own cold air, but the cold air it brings is not a lot. So that's why, it's raining in Ohio, West Virginia, and it's snowing over here. You're thinking, well, why isn't it snowing in West Virginia? That's because the main upper level low, directly under that upper level low, is where you have a cold pocket of air aloft, helping for temperatures to cool even to the surface. So this is probably where your best precipitation is going to be, and this is just where your better cold air source is going to be, I guess is the best way to put it. So you keep this going, and this is when it gets kind of interesting because it's getting further south at this point. Look, it's snowing in areas of extreme southern sections of Indiana, Evansville, Illinois. You got potential a rain snow mix in Memphis, even though it just shows rain. But I mean, and then we're starting to get into Thursday evening, And then we're getting into Thursday night, right in the middle of the night, around midnight. You got snow making its way into Nashville, Florence, Alabama, Huntsville, Alabama, snowing and close to the Paducah area, the Mayfield region. You got a little bit of snow starting to show up. You got to think there's a lot of energy in here. All the energy ain't just right here. It's all over the place. But that main upper level low energy is right in here. So you keep this going, all of a sudden, you start to have snow falling in northeast Tennessee, Tri-Cities region. Snow starts to fall in the mountains of Virginia, North Carolina, Tennessee. And look at this light snow trying to make it all the way to Atlanta, Georgia. This isn't a blockbuster event, guys. This is getting into Friday morning. And you're thinking, man, this is heading towards me here in South Carolina, here in central South Carolina. Well, I mean, it does try to show a rain-snow mix in Charlotte. Do I think that's going to happen? I don't right now. But, it could change. But it shows a light snow. Now, this isn't just going to be a light blue blob on radar. When we get in range of these short-range models, this will look a lot different. This will probably be in the form of some light snow, flurries, rain-snow mix. But it's a favorable time frame of the day. It's the morning hours, okay? And this is moving in. And, even getting into Friday afternoon, it's still chilly enough for some snow showers, snow flurries, I would say, flying around maybe in Alabama. And then some heavier snow here in the southern Appalachian Mountains. Right now, if I could make this call, I would say this favors, as far as Tennessee, the Cumberland Plateau, getting into northern Alabama, and, of course, the southern Appalachian Mountains of Tennessee, North Carolina, Virginia, maybe even West Virginia, too. I definitely think West Virginia could get some snow. I really do, especially if this vortex shifts a little bit further north. But I mean, this is going to be an interesting little event. I think this will kickstart some northwest flow event snow because, I think when these pieces of energy go up against these higher elevations of the southern Alps and just mountainous regions, it squeezes out every little bit of moisture possible. That's why a lot of times, like Chattanooga, Knoxville, kind of gets hoodooed when it comes to these systems that swing in from the north. It seems like the Cumberland Plateau will get snow, and then the mountains of Tennessee will get snow, but the valleys, I'm not going to lie. And I got some people who are tuned in from Chattanooga. I talked with somebody who lives in Chattanooga. I would not want to live in Chattanooga, Tennessee. You would think it sits right in here, right? You would think, man, that's a pretty good spot for snow. But, man, it's a tough spot. They kind of get snow shadowed. But anyways, that's a different story. I'm sure you folks in Chattanooga probably agree with me and probably screaming, you are exactly right. But anyways, what about the Canadian model? I think it's worth showing. The Canadian model gets kind of dissed on sometimes, but I think it does good sometimes. But same thing, snow, I think it could be, let's back it up because I just skipped our folks here in Missouri. I think, it could be kind of a snowy morning, Wednesday morning in areas of Missouri, Wednesday afternoon, getting into Wednesday evening, overnight Wednesday into Thursday morning. Look at the blue showing up around St. Louis, maybe even Kansas City. And I think that some light snowfall accumulations are possible in Missouri. Some of the snow could make it into northern Arkansas, starts to move into the Boot Heel, western Kentucky. This swings through, and then look at this. We're getting into Thursday afternoon. You got some snow showers, snow flurries, maybe some burst of moderate snow flying around in Tennessee, areas of Kentucky. We keep this going. And here comes this upper level low swinging through. It's a lot more aggressive with the snow up here in Indiana. Shows a little bit of light snow overnight this coming Thursday night into Friday morning across areas of the southern half of Indiana. Illinois, look at the snow starting to show up for the Appalachian Mountains. And it just shows a lot of light blue. To me, once we get in the short range models, to me this screams a lot of flurries, a lot of light snow showers probably with this. This is a big area of energy, but it's still just kind of one stream dominated energy. It's not phased together, so it's not a big storm system. Now, it could become a bigger storm system once we get to the northeast, and we'll talk about that in another segment that has to do with this energy too. But you keep going. I mean, you see all this light snow flying around? I mean, look at it. Mid-South, Ohio Valley, heavier snow up here for you folks in West Virginia, Western Maryland, southwest sections of PA. And I mean, it keeps snow flurries flying around all the way through Friday. Getting into Saturday morning, you still got snow flying around the Cumberland Plateau in these areas. Kentucky. Canadian model just keeps it pretty much a wintry into your weekend for this entire region right into here. Okay. Now the Euro is is certainly not the life of the party for a winter weather fan. Okay. It's kind of like just the adult at the party that's, acts like a super adult that, just isn't funny at all. You get what I'm saying? So it kind of comes in and it just, it swings it in. It's not as exciting for Missouri at all. And that, guys, that was not a knock at you adults that are like that. I pick with my wife all the time, and I tell her, I was like, why do you have to act like a super adult all the time? I tell her to grow down sometimes because I'll be cracking jokes, just acting like a kid, and she does too. But sometimes she just acts like a super adult. So, but anyways, guys, I'm good for a couple side stories of video. But to me, this just screams a rain-snow mix. Some areas could be snow, some could be rain. And, we're getting into Wednesday afternoon. You're kind of getting that around St. Louis. But, man, it is just not as aggressive looking. And, in fact, it keeps most of this just light rain. Just not as an exciting area of energy at all. But, we get into Friday morning, kind of push of moisture comes through, and there it is. Rain-snow mix in Nashville, Cumberland Plateau getting some snow, mountains of North Carolina and Tennessee getting some snow. And then this is when it gets a little bit more aggressive, more so into Friday afternoon. You get some light to moderate snow flying around the Cumberland Plateau and, like I said, the mountains of the Southern Alps. So this will be interesting, but you can tell where the valley is, right? Not for you folks in like the Tri-City to Knoxville, Chattanooga area. People don't realize there's a plateau. It's called the Cumberland Plateau, and it is like a microclimate area, and it goes all the way into Alabama, and it is favored. It is definitely favored when it comes to certain events, a lot of events. So I think that this event would do well for it. I got a buddy who lives in this area. He might be watching this video now, and he always gives fantastic updates for the southern areas of the Cumberland Plateau. But this moves out, and yeah. So I spent a really long time on that, probably longer than I probably should have, but anyways, you know how I do. But the blend of all models for Missouri, and this shows Illinois too. We'll get a little bit closer for our folks in Tennessee and northern Alabama, North Georgia here in a second. Blend of all models, just going for trace amounts. Somebody could squeeze in an inch in Missouri. If you look at the GFS, okay, and man, why does it always do that? The GFS, folks, is a lot more aggressive, but I just think it's way too aggressive. It's way too aggressive, but it's going for a few inches of snow in St. Louis, a couple inches in Missouri, and I mean, it really wants to hit southern Illinois, Evansville, western Kentucky, and there's just a stripe in western Tennessee, pretty good. But you compare that with the Euro, guys, and I mean, it does. It likes certain areas in Missouri, but it's not as hyperactive, if you will, as the GFS. I think the blend of all models, and I'm not trying to be a buzzkill, I think the blend of all models is a good one to use for now. For now, we'll see if this uptrends. But let's go on and move. Nope. Let's go on and move to the southern Appalachians right here. And here it is. This is the blend of all models for this region. It's showing a pretty nice event for the Smokies. I'm not, for you guys, the standards, I'm not saying it's a nice event. It's probably a little bit too much. Whatever you consider a lot of snow in these areas, but a few inches of snow, I think, is a guarantee in the Smokies. The higher elevations of, like the Roan Mountain region, Mount Mitchell could get some snow from this. Even up in the Boone could get some snow from this. I think the Tennessee side could be a little bit more favored. But this is a perfect example of the Cumberland Plateau. You see how this area has a ½ inch to an inch of snow, maybe even an inch and a half in the Cumberland Plateau. You see this little kind of gap right in here. There's Chattanooga right here, Knoxville up in here. And then you see the higher totals and the higher elevations of Tennessee, North Carolina, Virginia up here, West Virginia here. That is the valley between the Cumberland Plateau and the main mountainous regions of the Southern Alps. And, even the blend of all models saying some areas can get over an inch. I think this is very possible. And I'm just basing off what I know about this region. And it seems like these events overperform in this area. It really does. And I think that Northeast Alabama is always kind of an area too that's always favored. But you look at the more aggressive GFS in this region. I mean, it's going to town through Tennessee, and then northern Alabama. But look, it's given trace amounts even down here into Atlanta, and it gives a nice event for the Southern Alps right in here too. And it does throw a bone for you folks in Rock Hill and Charlotte. Do I think that's going to happen? I really don't, but I could be wrong. But we got a couple days to figure it out, right? And there's this weird gap in Kentucky. But, you look at the more tame European guys, and I mean, it's even going for a couple inches of snow in the Cumberland Plateau, some snow in Nashville, and some trace amounts in the valleys, and, a minor to moderate event for the Appalachian Mountains. So, I'm excited to see how this plays out, guys. I live here in South Carolina. We do not do well with these events because I love the mountains, but they just mess up these pieces of energy that kind of swing in from the northwest. But I'm just excited to talk snow for somebody again. I tell you that. But this same kind of system will be swinging into the northeast. So we'll actually let's talk about the northeast here. We're starting kind of the evening of the 27th. Okay, remember timestamps up here, also over here. Here comes the GFS, latest GFS, low, good old just rain down here in New England. I mean, even into Vermont, New Hampshire. But I will say, as we are getting into the middle of the night, Wednesday night and Thursday morning, we could have a snowstorm up here in northern sections of Maine. I mean, Maine will even struggle in this. I'm sorry, Caribou will even struggle with this, but I think that it'll be potentially a pretty nice event for Caribou for sure. We're getting a Thursday morning, heavy snow up here in northern Maine. Just rain down here in the down east areas, coastal regions of Maine, southern New England. Okay? But, kind of watch this. That pulls out. We are starting to get into Thursday evening, Friday morning, and then kind of another low tries to develop. And then all of a sudden, a little bit more cold air is working in. There's our upper level low system right here. And we keep this going. We're getting into Friday midday. At the same time, it's kind of snowing down here in the southern Alps. Check it out. Some of this rain tries to start to switch to snow in the southern. Now, this is 100 hours out, but this is still not nailed down. There's a lot of energy flying around. There really is. But you start to get into Friday evening, and some moderate snow begins to fall in New Hampshire, Vermont, areas of Mass, and even Maine. And then it just really amplifies Friday night into Saturday. This is right in the middle of the night, Friday night. I mean, rain switches to snow in Boston. You start to all of a sudden get a pretty nice event. It's trying to flirt with New York City at this point. And all of a sudden, you get a prolonged period of moderate to heavy snow across southern New England. You see how quick that develops? You get this is Saturday morning, the 30th, this coming weekend. I mean, all of a sudden, you're getting a snow event in Boston, and especially points west. It's snowing in northern Rhode Island, Connecticut, raining still out on Cape Cod and southeast Mass. But I mean, check this out. You're getting into Friday afternoon, it switches to all snow and heavy snow for southern New England. This is not a forecast, guys, but this is something we're going to be monitoring. The videos are going to be very long going forward throughout this week. I must say that. And there's that low pressure, 996 millibar low getting into Saturday afternoon, and this heads on out. There's just enough cold air for this to be a quick hitter. Okay? And what is the GFS showing for this? I mean, guys, it's going for a pretty nice event, going for a 4-inch event here in Boston, but just inland, you get half a foot to, 8-9 inches of snow, and it gives pretty much your first decent snow event of the winter for southern New England. You guys have not really had an event, that added up to more than a few inches this winter so far. So, Maine, the GFS likes this, okay, but the GFS can, be off its rockers sometimes. And, we compare this with the GFS ensemble, and look how different it is, guys. You see how different that is? This is the ensemble, only gives a half an inch of snow in Boston. But if you look at the operation run, it slams you, right? Big difference. That's why it's always great to look at ensembles, right? It keeps things more conservative, which is boring, I know, but it's the right thing to look at, especially when models do not agree. Euro, what about Euro with this system? Same thing. The Euro is a little bit warmer with this system in northern Maine. In fact, it wants to throw in more of a wintry mix. As we're moving into 27th to the 28th, another rainstorm moves in mid to late week for folks of southern New England. 995 low, wind-driven rain, just same old, just nothing but rainstorms so far this fall, this winter for southern New England. Got a winter weather event that's probably going to prompt at least winter weather advisories in northern Maine. But as this clears out, same thing. Another low tries to develop. More precipitation becomes more amplified. And as we get into Friday afternoon, just looks like more so light snow in most of Maine, areas of New Hampshire. But there's that low developing, 992 millibar low, throwing precipitation back into this cold air in Maine. New Hampshire, Vermont, rain's starting to switch to snow even in Mass. And I mean, the Euro tries to throw some love to Boston, but it's not near as substantial as the GFS is for southern New England. But it does kickstart some lake effect snows and lake effect snow energy that kind of trails all the way towards the coast. And this turns into a pretty decent snow event as we're getting into Saturday morning for Maine. And in fact, could really deepen and throw a substantial snowstorm if the Euro is correct for areas of Nova Scotia and New Brunswick, which we will talk about if it actually becomes something that needs to be talked about. But the models are still everywhere, as you see. But man, it all of a sudden slams the down east areas of Maine with a pretty hefty event. And if you look at snowfall totals from the operational run, pretty big event for Maine. But if you compare it with the GFS, not near as big. But several inches of snow. I mean, look at New Brunswick, but you look at the ensemble, and it supports this a little bit more, but not near as aggressive for you folks along the coastal areas of Maine, and doesn't throw much at all for southern New England. So what if we compare all this? Let's look at the blend of all models for this. I think that's a great thing to look at this range. And the blend of all models says, don't get your hopes up for nothing big, but this could change. This could change. This is something that's kind of unfolding. 30 minutes in, and I feel like we're just getting started. You can tell it's going to be a 45-minute video. So moving past that event, moving past that one, you can see it. This is the GFS. You can see it leaving the picture. We enter kind of a brief quiet period, but it is a quiet period. We got a lot still kind of trying to enter the Pacific Northwest, but another piece of energy swings down. You can see it, you can see it off that 540 line digging down. A little bit of snow associated with it. At this point, we're getting into New Year's Eve evening. Ball's about to drop. Here it goes. We're going into 2024. You see it just switch here, 2023, 2024. Here we go. Energy dropping down. New Year's morning, January 1st. Same kind of looking system as what we're going to deal with a few days prior. Energy dropping down into the eastern U.S., the southeast. Losing my train of thought here, and here it is. Same kind of look, right? You were thinking, are you sure you're not covering the same system that we're going to be dealing with later this week? No, this is about a week out, so not too far out. This is getting into the evening of January 1st. Look at this snow, another system. And guys, there's a lot of energy right here that you can't really see. There's some southern stream energy right in here. You see this green going over Florida, South Georgia. That's southern stream energy. They try to connect. They do, but it's too late. Low develops right here. There's enough energy off the northern stream energy to deliver some northwest kind of flow event, snow event for the southern Alps. But what does this do afterwards? Man, it is close to something big. 985 millibar low. Next week, about 8 days out, off the coast. And if this was a little bit closer, this would probably be a big winter storm for somebody in the mid-Atlantic or Northeast. Probably still dealing with temperature issues for the immediate I-95 corridor, but this is still close to something big. In fact, you can kind of see it developing right here. You see this snow falling in southeast areas of PA around midday January 2nd. That's it trying to do something, but it doesn't quite do it. What about the Euro? What does the Euro show for that same system? Let's go on and take it to the eastern U.S. It digs it down, and here it goes, right here. You see, this is the northern stream energy right here as we're moving into the new year. This is the middle of the night, New Year's Eve into New Year's Day. You see the energy down here. You see the green. You see the blue up here. They're kind of trying to meet together. And then look at this. This is getting into the afternoon of January 1st. This is the evening of January 1st. This is a cold rain across the southeast. I think we're going to see this a lot the rest of the winter. But it's cold enough, just cold enough for the higher elevations of the southern Alps to see snow. But this is a cold 40-something degree rain from Atlanta to Augusta to Charlotte to Columbia. Okay? But it is close. Look, a low develops right here. It's close enough to where it's kind of dropping some snow in southern New England. And once again, it is very close to being something big, but they do not phase together at the right time in the right area. So as we're speaking, we have the storm system that I think is going to happen that's going to drop down to the mid-south. Kind of the same associated energy for the Northeast could do something. Another low pops off. And this is getting into later this week, into this weekend. And then as we're getting into kind of early next week, first week of the new year, we could have something that could be a close call. And guys, you can see the energy here. You know, we're starting off the afternoon of the 31st. There's the energy right here. There's some energy down here. And you see how they try to link up. There it is. You see, you know how I was showing you the rain over Florida, South Georgia? That's because of this energy right in here. And then you got this aggressive northern stream energy. They try to connect, and they finally do. You see how it goes positively tilted right here? Well, neutrally tilted. You see how it's tilted straight down, and then it tilts this way? That is a powerful system, but it's a powerful system over the Atlantic Ocean, and it's heading out at this point. So we have to watch that energy too, guys. Right around the new year, into the second, maybe into the third. And then, well, hold on, not and then yet. What about the signal from that storm system? Well, there's not much there. You know, this is from the signal from that storm system for the Northeast I was talking to you about. And then from the energy we were just speaking on. You see how everything kind of, the numbers are increasing here? Okay, so that is kind of your signal. I know there wasn't much there at all, right? But that's kind of your signal. And if you look at the GFS ensemble, it's kind of the same thing, guys. You can barely see it. This is from the upper level low that swings down. Maybe the coastal low that tries to develop for the Northeast. But look how everything kind of increases from the period of New Year's Eve to January 2nd. So everything kind of increases a little bit. That is that little bit of a signal for the storm system around New Year's and into the 2nd. Okay? What about after that? Well, this is when we start to get into La La Land. Okay? After that, and look how far out we are, past 200 hours, getting into January 3rd. There's that big system that starts to bomb out off the coast and heads on out. This is your classic stages being put together for a big storm. You can see some energy bubbling up here in Southeast Texas. You can see a cold air dropping down with snow associated with it. These pieces of energy try to combine together. They don't quite make it. You got energy kind of shooting down from Canada right here. But as we're getting past 10 days, you start to get even more energy. Now, this looks like it's going to be something bigger than what it ends up being. It kind of gets split up. It kind of gets sheared out. But it does, as we're getting, like this is far out, 12 to 13, 14 days out, tries to deliver some kind of snow event for areas of the Northeast. But we get even past that, guys. And look at all this cold air that's dropped down. This shows a big system 300 hours out past. And when you see this, please don't get all excited like you think it's going to happen. People do. But this shows one of your classic big-time winter storms for areas like the upper Southeast and Mid-South. Cold air damming event. Huge winter storm as we're getting into like the second week of January. This is, a big winter storm. Okay, and then it really bombs out. Turns into, I wouldn't say it bombs out, turns into a pretty powerful snowstorm for areas of the Delmarva region as we get into like the 8th and 9th. Do I think this is going to happen? I don't. I'm going to say I don't because this is so far out. But they consistently keep showing something pretty far out into around the end of the first week, second week time frame, some kind of big system. What about the European? Remember, the European only goes out 240 hours out. Okay? Only 240. It doesn't go, and in my opinion, that's how far I think models should go out, only 240 hours out. But there goes that big system, heads on out. And if you look right here, we're at 234 hours out. Here comes a low, your classic Gulf low track. And this is as far out as it goes. It goes all the way out to the Thursday morning of the 4th. This looks like it's about to be a big one. You got rain switching to snow in Alabama, Georgia, right around Atlanta. It's starting to snow in the Cumberland Plateau, the Southern Alps region. And if this low was to keep on going like this, it would probably be, I would say, a big winter storm for probably these areas right into here. There's cold air dropping down. You got a nice track of this low, but this is 10 days out. It's pretty far out. And we don't know if this storm would continue to do like this or if it would go like this and turn into something bigger for the Northeast. But we're all speaking, no point in speaking in absolutes this far out. We don't know if there's going to be anything that's blocking this in place to allow this low to kind of go up the seaboard, eastern seaboard. So it's something we need to watch. But that is our, I guess you would say, your third or fourth storm signal. So, It's pretty wild, guys. And, going forward, just to kind of speaking on the pattern again, all I can tell you here is, as this upper level low swings in where this blue is, this indicates lower pressure, colder air typically associated with lower pressure. Cold front typically always moves in behind a storm system. The red colors, the orange colors, that's ridging. That's typically warmer than average temperatures, more stable conditions, and just calmer conditions. So you keep this in motion, this storming signal continues to show up over the eastern and southern U.S. And it makes sense based off everything I just went over the last 30 minutes. This ridge begins to really kind of build up all the way up into Alaska. Models have done very well kind of sniffing this out. And this storminess really remains. And we stop it right here. This is, next Saturday morning. You can, really see the pattern really well. I'm going to try to draw on this really quick. You got the ridge building all the way up into here. You got the dip in the jet right here, which is indicated by the trough. And I wouldn't, say that this is dipping further than that, probably like that. So you got this ridge building all the way up into Alaska. This helps to kind of, in a way, displace cold air from the Arctic. So you got some cold air filtering in down and even down into here too. Not a lot, but there's enough cold air. Now, if the Pacific air didn't just obliterate our snowpack in Canada, this would probably be a better cold air source making its way into the lower 48. But it's not. We all been talking about a pattern shift, and it is a pattern shift, but I don't think we're going to have any really deep cold air with this pattern shift. We're going to talk about that here in a second. I think that there's just enough cold air that gets brought along with these storm systems to provide some winter weather chances for areas, including the chance that's coming up as we enter the end of this week. But this ridge is building up. At the same time, you got energy kind of flanking down here on the southern jet. And we also have energy sort of shooting down the base of this trough setting up. And, we can have low pressure that's kind of going like this. And I know this is everywhere, guys. Low pressure going like that. Or just northern stream dominated energy flying around this trough. I know that's everywhere, but just to kind of draw it again. Ridge, trough, like this. Cold air coming down like that. Energy going down like this. Little low pressures kind of diving down this trough like this. Low pressures kind of coming down the southern jet like this. They can meet somewhere in here and maybe be a bigger storm or just a aggressive northern stream energy system. But there is just enough cold air getting shot down into this area to feed some of this energy. So that's what's going on. Now, another thing is trying to find a negative NAO, which is blocking in Greenland right up here. We don't have that yet, at least in the medium term. But going forward here, the pattern pretty much stays in place. And then it gets kind of weird as we get 10 days out. I think we still need to figure out this time frame. Still have a lot of blues showing up down here, which indicates a lot of energy. But it looks like you get a displacement of cold air that begins to come down to Canada into the lower 48. Now, just because you see a big blue blob coming down here, that doesn't necessarily mean Arctic air. And I'll explain that here in a second. But yeah, it's an evolving pattern. I think we're very confident on kind of the now to medium term. But once you start to get about 10 days out or longer, it gets kind of questionable. But we do know that cooler air is coming, but I really think the below average temperature is going to be confined mainly to the deep south. I honestly think the Northeast, the Midwest, and, areas of the Western U.S. is going to stay for the most part warmer than average, but not as warmer than average than what you've been seeing. I think we maximized that over the last couple of days, but as we're getting into the end of the year, I think we're going to get a cooler than average period. I just don't think it's going to be Arctic air cold, but I think it's going to feel like a winter chill. We're starting to get to the first couple of days of January. Colder than average temperatures, and this starts to moderate a little bit. So to sum all that up, and thank y'all so much if you watched every bit of that. To sum all that up, I think that we're going to have a period of colder than average temperatures to the south, even the eastern U.S., southeast, with pieces of energy storm systems swinging in and could provide some winter weather chances. I do think there's going to be a warm-up mid-January. But I think late January, something big can be coming. And I'm going to be the first to admit, guys, that I'm not an expert when it comes to sudden stratospheric warming, which is SSW for short. Or, sudden stratospheric events or warming, whatever you want to call it. If you're kind of active in the weather world, you've probably heard about it. It excites a lot of people. I wouldn't say it's new, but it's something that I feel like over the last 3 or 4 years, people have really took a lot more action and learning a lot about. So basically what this is what you're seeing on your screen. Just think of this as kind of cooler than average air and then warmer than average air, or blocking or troughing. Okay, and really what happens here is we're going to start this off Friday morning. Okay, you notice the ridge still over Canada. You notice the cold air is pretty much where the cold air normally is. This is the Arctic. This is the top of the world. This is North America. This is, make sure I don't get my continents mixed up. This is Europe over here. And this is Asia over here. Yeah, I got them right. We're good. Trust me, I know my geography, I promise. But we keep this moving forward, okay? Looks like, you get this area of kind of warm colors, right? Let's just call it that gets pushed over the North Pole. So right when this happens, and this is getting, let's just go on and take it all the way out to about 11 to 12 days out. Check this out. You got this, I know what you're seeing. You're thinking, Mitch, all I see is just two totally different colors right next to each other. Well, think of this as blocking over the Arctic, this big blob of different colors of red and white. This is a blocking pattern over the Arctic. What this does is displaces Arctic air to one, maybe two, maybe all sides of the globe. It's typically not all sides. It's typically one, maybe two. Sometimes this blocking pattern can split the polar vortex or just flat out displace it. We don't know what's going to happen yet. But guys, I've never seen the confidence level be so high on this happening than what it is right now. And this is going to happen the first week of January, which is, January 5th. This is when this is, first week of January. So just because this happens, that doesn't immediately mean that you just get an Arctic air mass that just immediately drops into the lower 48 down here, which is down here. It takes about a week or two, even 3-week lag, which would take us into late January, early February. So there's a lot of chatter that, we're going to have this sudden stratospheric warming event that is either going to split the polar vortex or either it's going to displace it, which means you're going to get a dislodgement of Arctic air into the lower 48, North America, could get dislodged into Asia, Europe, but there's a good bit of confidence that this is going to happen into North America. Now, if you're trying to figure out what that means, you remember the Arctic air mass we got a year ago today. Back in last December, it was a historic, it did a lot of damage. That was because of the displacement of Arctic air from the North Pole. That's what happened with that. And then you'll remember 2021. I know you folks in Texas, surrounding states remember that. February of 2021, when we had the insane Arctic air mass that killed a lot of people, unfortunately, and just caused a lot of issues. That was because of a polar vortex split, also displacement. So, like I said, I don't pretend to know everything about this. I know the basics, which is when you have a blocking pattern like this over the Arctic North Pole, Arctic air is going to get displaced somewhere to the globe, on one side of the globe. Sometimes it's split. This looks kind of like a displacement for me, to me. So we got to figure this out. But there's no point in really talking that deep. But confidence is increasing. This is going to happen. Guys, this might have been my longest video ever. Thank y'all for tuning in. God bless all y'all. Have a great night.